This is going to be the full guide to understanding iPhone notifications and making them way less annoying. Because for a lot of people, notifications is one of the biggest reasons why your iPhone feels so overwhelming. Your phone buzzes for text messages, emails, app updates, and probably a bunch of apps that you've never really even cared about. And after a while, your iPhone stops feeling like a helpful tool and starts feeling like something that's constantly trying to get your attention. But the good news is Apple gives you a lot of control over notifications. You can choose which apps notify you, how those notifications appear, whether or not they make noise, whether or not they show on the lock screen, and whether they show badges or they're all just grouped together. You can also use things like focus modes to decide who and what can reach you depending on what you're doing. I don't think the goal here is to get rid of all notifications. I think the goal is to get the right notifications to show up at the right time and the unimportant ones to maybe never show up. Before we start interrupting settings, let's talk about why notifications matter so much. Notifications are not just little pop-ups that show up on your screen. They're one of the main ways your iPhone decides what gets your attention. And if every app is allowed to interrupt you whenever it wants, then your phone's basically letting everyone else decide what you should focus on. And that's why your notification setup really matters. If your notifications are a mess, your phone starts to feel stressful and distracting and cluttered. But if your notifications are set up well, then your iPhone starts to feel a lot calmer and more intentional. You still get the important stuff like calls, messages, calendar alerts, but you don't get interrupted every 5 seconds by apps that are just trying to pull you back in. So when you go through these settings, maybe think about one question. Will these notifications actually deserve your attention right now? If the answer is yes, maybe keep those notifications on. But if the answer is no, you can make it more quiet by setting it to the summary or turning it off completely. Okay, let's start with Notification Center, because this is where all your recent notifications live. On your iPhone, you can get to notification by swiping down on the top left or top middle of your iPhone. This is different from Control Center, which you do by swiping on the top right of your iPhone. When you open your Notification Center, you'll see all your notifications throughout the day. Things like messages, mail, reminders, that video game you've been playing. Depending on your settings, those notifications might be grouped by app, stacked together, or shown as individual alerts. Then if you tap a notification, it usually opens up the app or takes you directly to whatever that notification was about. Then if you swipe left on a notification, you can usually manage it, view it, or clear it out completely. The manage option is really important because it gives you a quick way to change how that app is actually allowed to notify you. So if the app keeps sending you something annoying, you don't have to go digging through settings. Usually, you can just manage your notifications right from the notification itself. This is one of the easiest ways to slowly clean up your iPhone over time. So every time an annoying notification pops up, don't just automatically clear it out. Maybe first think, do I want this app interrupting me all the time? And then you can either clear it out or manage and change the options. Now let's talk about the notifications on your lock screen. These are the notifications that appear before you even unlock your iPhone. Lock screen notifications are useful because you can quickly glance at your iPhone and see what you missed. But they can also be really distracting because every time your iPhone lights up, your brain wants to check it. There's a few ways your notifications can appear on your lock screen. You might see them as a count, as a stack, or as a list. A count is probably the cleanest option because it shows how many notifications you have. And then a stack is a nice middle ground because it keeps things grouped but still lets you expand them. And a list shows much more detail right away, but it can make your lock screen feel a lot more cluttered. So if you want your iPhone to feel more calm, try using count or stack instead of list. That way your lock screen still tells you something happened, but it doesn't throw every single notification in your face. If your lock screen always feels busy, this is one of the first things that I would change. Another important lock screen setting is notification previews. This controls whether your iPhone shows the actual content of your notification before the iPhone's even unlocked. For example, if someone texts you, a preview might show the actual message on the lock screen. If your phone's sitting on the table, someone else will be able to read your messages, emails, or app alerts. So if you care about privacy, you might want notification previews to only show after Face ID recognizes you. To change this, go to Settings, Notifications, then Show Previews. Then you can choose Always, When Unlocked, or Never. Always means your notification content will show anytime, even when the phone is locked. Then, Unlocked will hide the notification until you unlock your iPhone. And Never means it will never show a preview and you have to go into the app every time to see what it says. For me, I like When Unlocked because I like to be able to see the previews, but I don't need to set my phone down and have everyone else be able to read my texts. That way, when I'm looking at my phone and I have my phone, I still got that convenience of seeing the notifications, but then random people can't just pick up my phone and read everything that's going on in my life. Now let's get into one of the most important parts of managing notifications: app-by-app notification settings. This is where you can decide which apps are allowed to notify you and how they can actually do it. So go to Settings, Notifications, then scroll down to your list of apps. When you tap on an app, you'll see a list of options. The first big one is Allow Notifications. If you turn that off, the app can't send you notifications at all. This is what I would do for most apps, honestly, and the ones that constantly bother you that don't really send you notifications that matter. For example, random games, shopping apps, restaurants. You don't need those notifications constantly. They're just advertisements, right? I mean, if an app constantly notifies you just to get your attention, not because it's useful, then you probably don't need those notifications on. But for those apps that do matter, you're going to want those notifications on, and you can customize exactly how they show up. You can decide whether or not notifications show up on your lock screen, in Notification Center, as banners, or all of the three. The lock screen option controls whether it shows when your iPhone is locked. Notification Center controls whether it stays in your notification list. Banners control whether it pops down while you're using your iPhone. This is where you can get really specific. For important apps like Messages, Phone, Calendar, and lock screen alerts, you might want banners, sounds, and lock screen alerts. But for less important apps, maybe you only want them in Notification Center. That way you could still see them later, but they don't interrupt you in the moment. Now, let's talk about the three most annoying parts of notifications: banners, sounds, and badges. Banners are the little notifications that drop down on the top of your screen while you're using your iPhone. This can be great for really important messages, but they're really distracting if too many apps are allowed to use them. So I'm pretty sure for me, I only have banners set on my Messages app. But things like shopping apps, social media, and games probably don't need to be interrupting you all the time, and you could probably get rid of those banners. And sounds are exactly what they sound like. This controls whether the app plays a sound for that notification or doesn't. In my opinion, I'd be pretty strict with sounds. Like, imagine if every app that you have makes a sound when they send you a notification. Your phone's just gonna be playing sounds all day long. Personally, I would only give sounds to a few apps, or honestly, I would give sounds to no apps. I don't like notifications to have any sound. Then there's badges, and badges are those little red numbers that show up on your home screen on the apps themselves. And just like how I really hate having sound on my notifications, I hate having banners all over my apps. I've turned this off for every app except for my Messages app, because everything else just gives you all sorts of banners, I swear. And just like how I hate having notifications with sound, I really hate these badges. I don't know, to me it just feels messy and it makes my home screen look gross. I think turning off badges is one of the fastest ways to make your iPhone look cleaner. Another notification setting that people overlook is banner style. Some apps let you choose between temporary and permanent banners. Temporary banners will appear for a few seconds, then disappear, while persistent banners will stay on the screen until you dismiss them. For most apps, temporary is better. You see the alert, then it goes away and it's out of your way. But for some apps where you really shouldn't miss those notifications, persistent might actually make sense. For example, if I take my wallet off my phone, the Find My app will actually notify me and keep a persistent banner until I move it away. That way I for sure see that my wallet is not on my phone. So I definitely wouldn't use persistent banners for everything, because it would be super annoying to have to swipe away notifications constantly. But maybe a few apps like your Messages might be useful. I think I only have persistent banners for my Find My app. That way, if it notifies me that I forgot something, I will know as soon as I look at my phone. Okay, now let's talk about notification grouping. Notification grouping controls how notifications from the same app are organized. Instead of showing 10 separate notifications from one app, your iPhone can group them all together into one notification. Obviously, this helps clean up your notification center and your lock screen a lot. You can usually set grouping to automatic, by app, or off. Automatic lets your iPhone decide how to group notifications in a smart way. By app groups notifications together by app, and off keeps them all separated. Most of the time, I think automatic is probably fine. But if one app is flooding your notification center, grouping by app can make things feel a lot more organized. This is another small setting that will just help your phone feel a lot less chaotic. Okay, now let's talk about scheduled summary. Scheduled summary lets your iPhone collect less urgent notifications and deliver them at a specific time of the day. So instead of getting random alerts all day long, you might get a summary in the morning, afternoon, and evening. This is perfect for apps that are useful but not urgent. For example, news apps, shopping apps. If you don't need to know about it right now, it probably doesn't need instant attention. Scheduled summary lets you still see those notifications without letting them interrupt your day. So I definitely wouldn't put important apps in scheduled summary. I would keep Messages, Phone, Calendar outside. But for basically everything else, scheduled summary can be a great middle ground. You're not turning off the notifications completely. You're just telling it to tell me later when I'm done doing this activity. Then some notifications can be marked as time sensitive. Time sensitive notifications are meant for alerts that are important enough to get through sooner than normal notifications.
Back in 2021 with iOS 15, Apple released a new way to change your iPhone completely, which they called focus modes. There's many ways to switch between your focus modes, and they completely change the way your Apple devices work. In this video, I'm going to start with the basics, showing you just what a focus mode is. Then we'll get a little more in depth, showing you some really cool things you can do with focus modes. And trust me, these actually are really cool. So let's get into it. Starting with the basics, focus modes are a way to get different notifications sent to you at different times. For example, you can turn off notifications from friends while you're at work, or turn off notifications from coworkers when you're not at work. This is pretty much what Apple advertises focus modes to be. Just a quick way to turn off notifications to focus on a different task. If you want to set up a new focus mode, you'll go into settings and find focus. Then you press the plus button and you can either pick between a few presets or make a custom focus. If you create a custom focus, it'll have you pick a few things like name, color, and icon. Now that you're in the focus mode settings, you can do a few things. Customizing certain notifications, like allowing certain contacts to contact you or not allowing other contacts to contact you. And you can actually do the same thing with different apps. This is really cool because you could turn on certain notifications for work only or turn off notifications for school. Hopefully this will make you a little more productive during these hours, making your phone a little less distracting and more of a tool to use. Then in the people section, you can actually decide who can call you. And below that, you can actually toggle on or off repeated calls. If this is turned on, when you're in that specific focus mode, whoever calls you needs to call you twice for it to actually ring through. Otherwise, if you don't turn this on, no matter how many times they call you, you won't get the notification while you're in that focus mode. Under all the notification settings, you'll see customized screens. And this is where things start to get a little more interesting. Before we get super deep into this, make sure you at least have all the focus modes that you're going to want to use added, so then you can go and make your home screens. I use 5 different focus modes: sleep, fitness, creative, work, and personal. These are pretty much the activities I do on a daily basis, and each focus mode actually automatically changes based on the activity I'm doing, which we'll get into a little later, but first, let's go to the home screen. On the home screen, I like to start completely fresh and remove all the apps from my home screen. To do that, you'll want to go into jiggle mode by holding down on anywhere on the screen where there's not an app. Then you can click on the app and you can remove it from home screen. If you've got a lot of pages, you can actually just click on this button on the bottom and then you can remove whole pages from your home screen. Okay, now that I don't have any apps on my home screen, I'm going to go through and make 1 or 2 pages specifically for each focus mode that I've made. For example, my fitness page has my health apps, my music, and my gym folder so I can quickly get to my workouts straight from my screen. Now that you have all the pages made for your focus modes, you can actually go to the lock screen and do the same thing by pressing and holding, and then adding a new lock screen by pressing the plus button. As you can see, I have a different wallpaper for my sleep, work, and fitness focus, and you can actually go in and add different widgets and controls, and you can pin a different focus mode to each lock screen while you customize it. Maybe soon I'll make a video about lock screens and home screens because there's a lot you can do these days in terms of customization. Now that you have the lock screens and the home screens ready to go for your focus modes, you want to go back into the focus mode settings on your iPhone and select them on the customize screen section, which if you have an Apple Watch, you'll see you can actually add different watch faces based on the focus mode, and you can actually do this with your iPad as well. Your Mac will also get these focus modes, but as of right now, you can't really customize things like your wallpaper, which in my opinion is a bit of a bummer, but hopefully one day we'll see that soon. Okay, now we have notifications ready and all your home screens will bring up different apps when you're in different focus modes, but now we need a way to actually activate the focus modes. I like to have everything automated so I don't even have to think about turning on or off my focus modes, so I actually go into the schedule settings and schedule a time for each focus mode to turn on and off. For example, my work focus turns on at 6:45 a.m. then turns off at 4 p.m. since those are typically the hours that I work. You can also activate different focus modes based on location or even an app you open. Maybe you have a school focus that'll turn on when you get to school, or a do not disturb focus that'll turn on whenever you open the YouTube app. If you don't like all the automatic switching between your home screen layout and your notification settings, then you can actually manually switch your focus modes in Control Center. If it's not in Control Center, you can add it by bringing your Control Center to jiggle mode like we did before on the home screen, then clicking Add Control. Now you can find the focus mode switcher and add it to your Control Center. I wish you could customize your Control Center based on your focus modes, but I haven't found a way to do that yet, so hopefully Apple will give us a way to do that soon. Before we get really crazy into this and bring the Shortcuts app, we need to talk about the very bottom section in the focus mode settings, filters. These filters can really change the way your Apple devices work, and it's really cool. Going into filters, you have app filters on the top, then system filters on the bottom. With app filters, you can do things like only show the text messages from the people that you've actually approved to get notifications from while you're in that focus mode. Now, if you're at work and you have the work focus on, you don't even see messages from people that aren't in your work focus, which some people might love because it's less distracting, but then others might hate it because now they don't know what their friends are talking about all day. Then you have the system filters, which there's not a ton of options, but I like to do things like turn off always on display and turn on low power mode while I'm at work, since I'm not really on my phone very much and it just saves battery life a little. All right, now let's dive into the Shortcuts app to make these focus modes even better. There's a few things that I really want to show you that I think take focus modes to the next level. First is making different automations to activate your focus modes. For example, you can add a new automation and select CarPlay, then have it run immediately when CarPlay connects. Now start a blank shortcut and search for Set Focus, and then select your driving focus. Now, whenever you connect to CarPlay, your phone will automatically turn the driving focus on. There's a lot of different ways to trigger your focus modes in here, like if you leave a certain area or if a specific person emails you or if you tap on an NFC tag. Then you can place these around your house or something, and then you can activate different focus modes whenever you want instead of having to wait for a time or location and just do it instantly. Quick NFC trick, your AirTags actually have NFC, so you can use it as an NFC tag and tag it to anything you want. Then when you touch your phone to your AirTag, it'll actually activate that shortcut. Another cool way to use these automations is by actually automating things based on the focus mode you're in. Going back into the add automation section, on the bottom, you can actually select one of your focus modes and then make it activate any shortcut. Some cool things could be turning off your lights when your sleep focus turns on, or maybe turning off your hotspot when your work focus turns off. The shortcuts app's really cool because although it might take a little bit of work, you can usually always find a different shortcut. As long as you can think of it, you can probably make it happen. One shortcut that I made actually involves the action button on the new iPhones, and I think it's a pretty cool one. If you don't have an iPhone with an action button, don't worry, because you could still use this shortcut by adding it somewhere, like maybe on the lock screen on the control center on the bottom. In the action button settings, you can map the action button to the shortcuts app, and I wanted to be able to control the action button based on the focus mode I'm in. So I made a really cool shortcut and I wanted to show it to you. First, you'll want to go to the shortcuts app and add a new shortcut by pressing the plus button in the top right corner. Then search for get current focus so your phone will know what focus you're in. And then under that, you're going to want to add the if function. Then you'll want to click where it says icon and change it to name. Then type in the name of your focus mode here. Now anything under this will be enabled when you're in that specific focus mode. Right after you add all the controls for that function, you're going to want to drag the end if function. This will tell your phone you don't want anything else to happen when that function above is selected. Now you just repeat it with your second focus. So search get focus, then add the if, then add all the controls you want, and so on. Now that you have that shortcut made and you have it selected in the action button settings, you can press the action button to activate the shortcut and it will only run the functions under the specific focus mode you're in. If you don't have the action button, you could still make this and then go to the lock screen settings and remove one of your controls on the bottom of your screen and replace it with this shortcut. Or you can add the shortcut to your control center by going back into Zickle mode one last time and adding a control and finding the shortcut in there. Focus modes can be a little overwhelming when you're setting them up, but once they're set up, they can be really helpful and make you a little bit more productive in your day.